Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today I have a highly requested video. I've been getting a ton of requests for this and I'm sure that everybody will appreciate this because I always try to follow through with what I'm being requested. But we're going to talk about 1-testosterone, also known as DHB, which is short for dihydroboldenone. But before we get into that, I have to reiterate that I am not a doctor. I am not insinuating, indicating, nor advising you to use any of the compounds that I talk about whatsoever. This information is for your entertainment purposes only, and what you do use this information for is completely and utterly up to you, and it has nothing to do with me. So, let's get into the video. Now, 1-testosterone dihydroboldenone, or DHB. It's an anabolic androgenic steroid. It's got some pretty unique properties of interest to bodybuilders. Now, interestingly, in spite of the fact that the name can actually be confusing, in no way, shape, or form is DHB actually testosterone. And in fact, it's simply the 5-alpha reduced form of equipoise, which acts in a completely different way. So you can think of it basically as a dihydrotestosterone version of equipoise, or DHT. So, let's talk about some facts. Now, on paper, DHB has an anabolic to androgenic ratio of 200 to 100. So if these figures don't tell you much, if that's not saying much to you, I have to remind you that testosterone's ratio is exactly 100 to 100. So DHB is twice as anabolic, because you're looking at anabolic and androgenic ratio, correct? So it's twice as anabolic as testosterone. But let's also not forget here that ratios given to steroids in general can be misleading. So DHB is actually very minimally androgenic, so such side effects as like your aggression, for example, and blood pressure are going to be lower than with other steroids. Moreover, when you compare it to other compounds, DHB is very mild. It doesn't cause a lot of stress on the kidneys, things of that nature. So, as I mentioned, it's very anabolic, which means that it should give you some nice lean muscle, and it's more anabolic than testosterone, equipoise, and DECA. So to put icing on the cake, it doesn't aromatize. All right, no estrogen conversion at all. So there's no need to worry about things like gynecomastia, water retention, etc. when you're using it. All in all, it's pretty good for pre-contest prep, and if you're looking for a compound that's going to give you, slobs of water weight gain and it's going to move the scale a ton, then this isn't for you. And most people aren't looking for a lot of water weight, but some people are looking for a lot of size, and that's not really what this is intended for. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to gain size on it, but you're not going to gain 15, 20, 25 pounds on it either. Now, one of the negative aspects that circulates out there with DHB is that there's a lot of PIP, which is post-injection pain, that some users report experiencing. Not everybody, but some. This occurs after an injection, and it can feel like your muscle is extremely sore, oftentimes for a few days. Now, PIP is no reason to avoid DHB, since there's, ways to actually combat this. So, for instance, you could actually dilute the oil with another compound of your choice, or if you're experienced, you could use grapeseed or, oil, make sure it's sterilized. Meanwhile, some users are just well off by heating up the oil itself and injecting slow amounts at a time per muscle. So there's ways around it. Many users out there do claim that DHB has some thermogenic properties similar to Tren in terms of sweating and insomnia at night. I'm not saying it's like Tren otherwise, but you get where I'm going. DHB gives very, very nice strength gains without hurting your appetite as well. So it can be a very nice way to add muscle mass. It may share its name with equipoise or testosterone, but people do consider it as Tren's baby brother. Just like all steroids, DHB is suppressive, so you're going to need a post-cycle therapy, and it should be implemented, and support supplements should always be taken on any cycle. Now, let's talk about a typical cycle. Users will usually kickstart their cycle off with an oral, not always, but some, and then stack around 400 or 500 milligrams a week of DHB, which is a good dose with maybe a long ester testosterone. When you do this, you should also run an aromatase inhibitor with testosterone because testosterone converts to estrogen. Now, depending on your dose and how prone to estrogen you are, you may need a lot, you may need a little. All right. Let's talk about female use really quickly. Virilization issues, things like deepening of a voice, enlarged clitoris, facial body hair. These can occur when females intentionally or accidentally run androgenic compounds. So as I stated, although DHB on paper is as androgenic as testosterone, that doesn't mean that it's going to yield as much androgenic symptoms as testosterone. So females do usually choose DHB over testosterone. I'm giving you instances on what females do on their choices. DHB is more similar structurally to primobolan and equipoise than to testosterone as well, so the virilization risk is lower. I don't care for females really using much of anything, but this is more on the safer side if a female is considering it. But I would only recommend it to experienced females who are aware of the risks, as DHB is in no way a weak steroid. Now, females will generally start low, maybe 25 milligrams per week, and get up to 75 at the most. Since it doesn't aromatize, if used by itself or stacked with other non-aromatizing compounds, you would not cause any sort of prominent estrogenic side effects. Things like lethargy, low libido, depressed mood. So for this reason, it's considered safer. But if you are running it with testosterone, as I mentioned, you still want to consider an aromatase inhibitor. Other than that, the side effects aren't really bad compared to tren and are probably more in line with equipoise and should be easy to deal with as long as you are using and not abusing it. You might want to check your red blood cell count on it. It's not a guarantee, but it's something that you might want to check with it. And like I said, you do need a full post-cycle therapy with it. Now, DHB is usually tied to the cypionate ester, so the half-life in that case would approximately be 8 to 10 days, so it's wise to inject this maybe twice a week, and it'll take about 4 to 5 weeks to completely clear out of your system. And DHB is also found in propionate and other ester forms as well, so the necessity of injection time is going to differentiate depending on the ester that you have. But generally it's associated more with the cypionate ester. So that being said, www.icearms.com/forums. I'm also on the Elite Fitness Forum as well as the Evolutionary Forum. You can email me, Dylan@icearms.com, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So that being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli signing off.